Welcome to the Champion Within podcast, your go-to spot for unlocking a winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete chasing greatness, a parent cheering from the sidelines, a coach leading the charge, or an educator shaping young minds, this pod party is for you. Hey, if we haven't met before, I'm Kate McCauley, your pod party host, former educator turned mindset mentor. I get to meet people where they are and get them to where they want to go. Expect awesome guest conversations with athletes, some solo chats to level up, and always leave this pod party with quick, powerful strategies to help you and your crew push past limits, embrace challenges, and crush goals both on and off the field. Let's tap into the champion within, because greatness is just a mindset away. Hey champions, thanks for joining me today. I cannot wait to share this guest with you. I'm excited for you to learn and listen to my chat with my guest, Aly Pain. Growing up, Aly was the smart, fun girl on the outside and a frantic, anxious mess on the inside. She went from award-winning student and athlete to detention and failing out. She spent years healing the pain of dysfunctional family relationships, including an eating disorder, suicide attempt, an ADHD diagnosis, to breaking that cycle, raising her own sons. Since becoming a certified life coach and certified relationship system coach in 2006, Aly has empowered parents and teachers around the world to rebuild mutual respect, trust, and meaningful connections with their teens without giving in, daily nagging, or more consequences. She's been featured in the New York Post, ABC Nightly News, and the Rachael Ray Show. Let's jump into this conversation. Thank you for joining us on the Champion Within today. I am excited to share this guest with you. I will admit, I am excited to learn as well. You know that I try to find guests that will connect with not only my audience, but will bring you something that we can all learn. Today, that is going to happen for you. I have no doubt that I will be getting messages that you had to stop, write down the information, rewind, listen to it again. And I know I'll go back and listen again. Make sure you are ready. Lean in and listen. Today, we have Aly Pain with us. She's going to share a little bit about who she is, her journey, and then we're going to take a deep dive and you are going to learn a lot from her today. How are you today, Aly? And thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thanks. I mean, hey, it's a Friday morning, right? So I love it. I'm super excited. This is going to be great.
Thank you so much for coming into the show today. Could you tell my audience a little bit about what you do now, and then we'll go back to how you got here?
Yeah, sure. I run an online business. I empower parents and teachers actually around the globe to end the painful disconnections, stressful silences, and emotional blowups with specifically tweens and teens, so that they can build healthy and meaningful relationships with mutual trust and respect. And I know that might sound really intuitive, but those are relationship skills that if you're like me, Gen X, Gen Y, even millennial, that we're not being taught how to do, but we're just expected, quotes, to know, specifically when it comes to parenting. And then if you're a parent, you've probably already been a coach. How do we get the kids to listen to us, and why don't stiffer consequences work? That's what I spend my days doing. It is my heart's work. I knew I wanted to do this from the time I was a teenager. So either that or talking to my phone and making videos.
Love it. You do have amazing videos out there. Well, we will share all of those in the show notes. I'm telling you, my listeners, once you click on that, you're going to just be scrolling and thinking, oh my goodness, why didn't I think of that? Your Instagram, everywhere. I was taking a deep dive myself. I love something you said there when you were describing about what you do, that we're expected to just know how to do these things, and really you have to be taught. It is something we need to learn. I know for myself, I will admit that for a long time, I thought I should be able to figure this out. I think a lot of the people I work with and just people I'm friends with through my work as a mom, when I'm coaching athletes, my children are athletes, that we don't want to admit that we don't know how to do this, but we're so frustrated that things are not working out. And we want our children to grow up to be good humans. So I think that it is important to realize what you said. this is something you need to learn and you have to be able to teach it to your children. We're going to dive into that. I wanted to just point that out before we even get to all of those amazing tips that you share when you're making those videos and all of the information you have to give us. Your journey to this place was not an easy one. I like to put that out there to people because sometimes people may see those incredible videos and they may see the work you do. They listen to the intro already that you're on TV shows in different places. You're changing lives, which is so incredible. Sometimes people forget that it is not all sunshine and rainbows. It is not everything's perfect in Aly's life. Could you share a little bit about maybe how the journey impacted you and something that was a bit of a struggle or a setback that you think you learned from or helped you to get to where you are today?
Yeah. So I was a student athlete. I was a gifted child. And so school came very easy to me. I was a gregarious and enthusiastic extroverted. So on the outside, award-winning student athlete, who doesn't want that as a parent? But on the inside, I was a hot, anxious mess not because my parents don't love me, okay? Because parents in previous generations, let alone ours, which I think is the one that is the come to Jesus generation where we are having to really have a look at what we're doing, we're not equipped or empowered to raise children who had emotions. That might sound rather simplistic, but how does one be human without emotions? Anyway, so I was a really anxious child because I was raised in a home where performance was everything. My value, my enoughness, my lovability, my worth came from my grades, from how many first place ribbons I got. And that all works for a time until it's not sustainable. Right. It also became the container that I lived in, that I needed to be a certain way. I needed to not have extra of me anywhere. I started to cope with no emotional strategies or intelligence, resilience whatsoever. I started diet pills at 12. I used my babysitting money for that. That was like a 14-year eating disorder. I started drinking heavily at 13, every weekend, just 3 weeks into grade 8. That went on until almost the end of high school. I started skipping school by 15 because my grades started slipping. I couldn't keep up with this standard that I thought was the only way I was lovable, and was consequenced when I fell even slightly short of that, like got a B or got a C. Nobody ever asked how I was doing or who I was. They just wanted me to keep putting external performance. So by 17, I went from straight A's to F's and failing out and attempted suicide. And it's taken me years to recover and heal from, as well as learn what are emotions, how do I feel them without thinking I'm dying, how do I embrace them as part of being human, and then how do I use them to be whole. That all impacted my sports journey because, again, when I wasn't winning awards and when I stopped showing up to practices in grade 11, when I was blowing off my life, no coaches asked me what was wrong. Coaches, not one adult.
I have to jump in at this point. First, please let me just say, those who are listening in the audio here, my hand is over my heart. Thank you for sharing that with us because, as you said, sometimes people, especially in different generations, we don't always talk about those things. Your willingness to share first, thank you for that. And I think just that alone makes people feel that they are not alone. I'm not the only one that is possibly feeling that, because when you are that successful student athlete or great student in the classroom and you have those high expectations for yourself or people in your household, you think, all of this stress is on me. Am I the only one feeling this? Thank you for sharing those experiences. And at least twice I heard you say, no one asked, why did you get a C? What happened there with the F? Do you understand? No coach stopped and said, what's going on, Aly? So do you remember a time where there was maybe a moment where you thought, if I don't do something about this, I'm not going to survive? Or was there a turning point for you where you started to I guess, move into what you do now? Was it through athletics? Was it through the work you do? Was it maybe, did you continue your athletic journey? How did things shift for you? Was it maybe a mentor? I'm curious how you got to where you are now, because when I'm hearing your journey, I'm thinking to myself as an educator, as a coach, you would be the kid that I would be chasing down saying, what are you doing? And trying to shake you and trying to see a different path. And if you didn't have anyone doing that for you at that moment, I'm wondering, when did it change?
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, so first of all, I know this is very triggering for some of the audience. So I'm aware if you need to skip past some of this, please do so if that's right for you. Because parenting of the day, and again, this is not about my parents being bad people. They're highly intelligent. They cared deeply for me. They did what they were taught.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I needed stricter rules, more consequences, more punishment, also more criticism, because criticism, shockingly, is believed to be a motivator. Can we just throw that out the window?
Right.
Great. Reminding someone of everywhere they're falling short is not a motivator. Thank you.
Yeah, say that a little louder for the people in the back, right?
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. So pointing out where you see my potential so that when I fulfill that, you feel great about you has nothing to do with me. So own your stuff and stop putting it on your kids. And I know a lot of student athletes feel that way, is that if they stop performing, or if they even don't decide they don't really like that sport anymore, they're just not passionate about that, they will be letting their parents down. And that, I want to say, I hear you, I believe you, and your life is actually not about pleasing other people, much as I am still learning mine is not. The turning point for me was, first of all, deciding the only way to end this pain because as teenagers do, everything you say to them, and children as well, they do not have the intellectual filter to know that what you're saying, criticism, judgment, consequences, is a way of saying I love you. They don't make up that extrapolation. That's your job. So what they do instead, what I did, is internalize all those messages. So my level of self-hatred became so much. I remember sitting in the vice principal's office in grade 11 once again for being caught skipping once again. I don't think I showed up to a single Monday in grade 11. Anyway, I remember the vice principal talking to me. I really don't remember what he was saying. I just remember sitting there, and the level of self-hatred is very difficult to describe unless you've lived it. The voices, the troops, the busload in my head were yelling so loudly. I remember in my peripheral vision seeing my thighs in my jeans and thinking, now these were also internalized external messages. You are such a fat pig. Your thighs are disgusting. I hate what you can see your hair, and look at your hands. You're such a gross, disgusting. I mean, there's no amount. You think I'm exaggerating? No. So my choice to end my life was the only way that I thought I could end that pain, because it wouldn't end at home. No matter how much I acted out, I begged, I pleaded, I tried to move out, I tried to find another place to live. It wasn't ending. So I thought that was the answer. The turning point for me, by the grace of God, was that my attempt did not work. That was the turning point for me. That I limped my way, I think that was March of my grade 11 year, was, okay, well, I'm here, and I never want to feel this way again. So it took everything I could just to swim to shore and get through grade 11. And yes, I failed some classes. Oh, and if you're a parent listening to this, look, I'm still here.
Right. What a good point to make, that you failed the classes.
I'm still here.
You're still here.
I'm almost employable. And I have my report cards actually sitting right beside me, because I'm about to do some videos on that. I still got into university, and nobody cared that my junior year was F's and C's and a P for pass. Anyway, so I decided I never wanted to feel that way. So what I did in the summer between my junior and senior year was, and I don't, again, by the grace of God, I don't know where I got this. I had no support from a single adult in my life to do the kinds of things that I did. I decided while I was that summer every day to ask myself, what works for me? How come I was a straight A student before, but I'm not now? What works for me? What do I need to do to support myself? So what I did in my senior year, grade 12, I graduated the top academic and top athletic student in my high school, which does not mean everything fixed. Please let me be very certain to tell you that was simply a Band-Aid. Was I started to write everything down. So I have a photographic memory, and that's why everyone thought I was really smart. My dad also has a photographic memory. He skipped 3 grades. It doesn't mean I'm smart per se. It just means that I could remember and regurgitate until everything got super complicated and I need to begin to apply knowledge, AKA grade 10, 11, 12. I was in advanced classes. I started to write everything down and stop expecting myself to remember everything. I decided to force myself to smile every day. Sports became fun because we know this. You do not think your way to success. It's fake it till you make it is a saying, because our experience, our feelings, and our emotions follow our behavior. I forced myself to smile, to laugh on the volleyball court, laugh when I hit it out, laugh when the serve went in the net. This level of expectation, this level of perfection that I believed was the only way I had value or worth or lovability, enoughness, I began to twist around and create. I had to force myself to be the person that was fun and light and having fun, and I did. I also created better time management because my mental health began to pick up ever so slightly, that I did more homework. But I stayed at school after school, didn't go home. I packed an extra meal, stayed for the 2 to 3 hours until my practice, and let myself do homework in silence and quiet and walk around the halls and get the homework done. So by the time my sports were finished and I got home, I wasn't starting homework at 9 o'clock.
Right.
I made better use of my time. Again, writing it all down. Can I say that? Write it all down. I had a journal. It's sitting right here beside me that I have kept since grade 12, and I'm going to do some videos about that. Why journaling and writing it down is so important. I allowed myself space to feel. I let myself be. So that was a lot of the turning point in how I got here. I realized through my decades of therapy and healing that my value and worth is not what I achieve. I have value and worth if I lay on the couch all day long.
I love
Really.
you just said that. There's so many things of value there. First, I would love to just start with the beginning where you said you really looked within and
Yes.
said, what works for me? I've been saying this with my students, with people I work with now. It doesn't really matter what I say to my own children. I mean, it does matter. I'm there to support these people, but I can give you the tools and the guidance and teach you those things. As we were saying, you have to teach people how to do these things, but you have to see what works for you. That is so incredibly important. And then you have to try these things. So you have to have some sort of plan. You were talking basically about a plan, and we're writing it down. If you need the quiet space, which most people probably work well in these types of environments, but again, you have to see what works well for you. It was almost like you were the one. You looked internally when I asked that question, was there a turning point or was there a person, a mentor? And I was selfishly probably thinking of myself, did I have a person when I was making different shifts in my life that I changed? And sometimes people do pop up in my brain, but I'm going to admit there's a lot of times, and I almost feel egotistical when I say it to people, but I did a lot of it for myself. I did the internal work with guidance and learned how to do it. But, you said that a couple of times. I had to figure out what worked for me. And then when you were talking about staying and getting things done, and the part that I really loved when you said making it fun, laughing and having fun. And I think that is something that gets confusing sometimes when I work with coaches and parents and even teammates. Everyone is different. I often call my own son, the youngest guy, has a uniquely beautiful brain. He has a lot of gifts that are challenges sometimes for educators, and myself as a parent had to learn how to unwrap those gifts. They can still be challenging. Do not get me wrong there. It's not like we're like, yay, dyslexia. ADHD is wonderful, but they are also really gifts if you can lean into them. However, other people, teammates, coaches, teachers, if they see an athlete who is laughing and having fun, like the example you gave, sometimes they think they're not taking it seriously enough. I'm over here working so hard and look at him or her, they're goofing around. And I'm curious, do you have a tip that you could give two tips here. I'm going to try to steal two from you. How could an athlete who is maybe feeling that overwhelm, that stress, I can't keep up with this intense expectation that whoever's putting on them, parents, coaches, teammates, to perform at the highest level all of the time. And no one can do that. No one can do that. But if they're feeling that, and on the other end, the coaches that are saying they're just goofy and they're almost having too much fun. How can I get them to take this serious? Do you have any tips there to say it should be fun? And of course we got to balance. We want to, we want to actually do what we need to do and win the game too.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a tangent before I answer those two, because this is sort of the spoiler alert that I forgot to say in the last answer.
Okay.
I have ADHD.
Oh, okay. Well,
I had undiagnosed ADHD, but because I was a smart, creative, and extroverted child, all things which are lauded by parents and teachers and coaches, everyone thought when I began to fail and slip, I was being defiant, lazy, and unmotivated.
Right.
No, that is often what happens with ADHD, is when the capacity for learning hits a ceiling with an undiagnosed or unsupported ADHD brain. So I'm going to say that. Now a lot of it all makes sense, but that was reserved for girls back in the day. Okay. So the two things. First of all, if you have an athlete who isn't having fun, I'm really worried. And this goes back to this whole performance thing. As an elite coach, and I was married to an Olympian, by the way, also so I understand elite performance as well. I think what you're wanting is a performer who's void of emotion, which I think we just talked about in parenting too. There's no such thing. Are emotions messy? Yes. Are they nonlinear? Yes. Get over it. If you want a whole human, which is the only way to create the best athlete, a whole human, then you better get on board with emotions real quick. Just real quick. Just pick up the books. I'll help you where I can. As far as, so Top Gun Maverick, here, I'll use that. That came out last year. It was like a big hit, whatever.
One of my favorite movies, the original.
Okay, but let's look at what he did to create a team. He didn't put their head in a vice. He didn't get them to do harder, think harder, work longer hours. And if they didn't get it perfect, he didn't consequence them necessarily. What did he do? Take them to go to the beach and play football.
Yeah, play volleyball.
So that they could right. So that they could experience each other in emotions. Do you know that fun opens pathways for creativity and better strategic, like clarity and thinking? As a coach, if you've got a player who is smiling and laughing a bit, and that pushes your buttons, that's an issue there. That's an issue. You may also join the club, have been raised to believe that emotions are bad and should be completely ignored and voted off the island. Now, if that player isn't in what you would deem as focused or working hard, then rather than make that assumption and criticize and judge, I would go to them and say, here's what I noticed. I noticed you're laughing. I noticed you're smiling and having fun. And I love that, because you're going to praise it, whether you believe it or not. You're going to praise that. Say, I love that. It's such a lightness. It's such great. I'm curious if there's something I can do. That's right. We're not blaming or accusing, because you're the adult. So you're being accountable and modeling that. I'm wondering if I can create an environment that would help you to focus even more, or because I don't know your brain, I don't know what you need to focus. Notice how I got curious instead of critical.
I love that.
So that's what you can say, because I know there are players, and I'm going to say this too, there are players who are laughing, smiling, and goofing around as a way to avoid their own greatness. And yes, that happens too. They will not get there through criticism. They will get there by you being curious. And I'll go back to how I faked it till I made it. If you ask that player, what behaviors would you be doing if you were the best player that you thought you could be, or even the player you dreamed of being? What kind of behaviors would you be doing? Just ask them. Then say to them, and if you were also that player and really enjoying what you were doing, how would you feel? Now you encourage that player, because you've asked them what works for them, Now you have a map for that player to encourage them to feel XYZ and try behaviors XYZ.
Right.
Because you are tapping into who they are and their recipe for being their best in their sport with you as their mentor, rather than you assuming they're not paying attention and goofing off, which again, I'm not saying they're not, or assuming they're unfocused, you don't have any clue, or assuming that you know how they need to feel and behave to be their best, which you don't know.
Great. I love this. I think it is so true. I think each individual athlete is different. And it goes back to what you said, the turning point for you. What works for you? So
Right.
asking those questions as a coach to your individual athletes, because you cannot just say, this is going to be what we do for the whole team. What works for you? And when you're those I statements, that's why I wanted you to give an example, because when I work in a workshop or if I'm in a speaking engagement, sometimes when they hear my voice over and over again and they hear someone else say it, oh, someone else thinks this too. I actually had someone say to me at the end of a workshop, I do what's called the village mentality, and I invite the parents in at the end after I work with coaches and the athletes, because I know that my son's success was a team mentality, that village mentality. It is not just my husband and I, our extended family. It is his teachers. It is anyone he's involved with in stage crew. Everyone needs to know about Ryan's uniquely beautiful brain. It is not
Right.
a secret. And Ryan sits at the table and shares what
Right.
works best for him. And some people think I was crazy in the beginning until he was successful. And then now they all say, how did you do that? But what works for you and those I statements? Stop saying, coaches, I'm talking to you right now, they're doing this, or you. It's you are not going to fix that. And I love the part where you said that that athlete who is almost playing down, not leveling up to their greatness, be holding back and laughing because of a lot of different reasons. But that's another technique. What could I do to make this the best environment so you can rise up? Because
Right.
that's what we want for that athlete too.
Yes, because as the coach, parent, teacher, fill in the blank,
Sure.
your job is to be their ally, their strongest trusted ally, not their adversary. And I know you certainly wouldn't say you're their adversary. The moment that you are placing your expectations of who they should be, how they should feel, now you're the adversary. And I'll tell you that just simply because the teenage brain is wired to run from anything that feels like judgment or criticism, like their hair is on fire. And P.S., their perception of their experience of you is the only answer that matters, so you don't get to answer the question.
Tell me a little story about that. So if somebody, I'm thinking of something right now related to some sports parents, but tell me a little story about that with the teenage brain. I love what you just said there. So if you're thinking about that parent and expectations and how that teenage brain is wired. If somebody's thinking right now, of course, I'm obsessed with the brain because of my son's brain and the work I do, and you're a genius in what you do. But someone who's listening right now and thinking, what exactly are Kate and Aly talking about with these uniquely beautiful brains and how the teenage brain is wired? Give me a little maybe story that they could say, oh, okay, this is what's happening when I'm thinking this about my athlete.
Sure. Especially in the teen years, it's really easy to say that they've lost focus. They've gone dark. They're lazy. They're motivated. They don't put in the effort as much. All of that is normal. Okay. I'm not saying there aren't other physiological or situational things, but that is normal. Your teen's brain, and by the way, nobody tells them this. So just as ill-equipped as you and I were for parenting, which is a big, I want to also say this, you're not failing. Because you can't fail at something you were never trained for.
So true. I remember holding my oldest and thinking, I have no idea what I'm about to do with this human. I hope I'm going to get this right. And
right?
I think, I hope I'm not screwing them up, every single day. And
yeah,
you're right.
I got like 6 hours, like how to get the kid out of my body, let alone keep it alive for about 30 days. I did not know how to raise a teenager.
Right.
So the part that's frustrating for you as a parent or a teen, as a parent or a coach, is that you were set up to fail. And that is true because you were taught outdated methods that, get this, were actually disproven in the 1960s. But because of the way our cultural norms work, that might only be 2 generations from you, but our school system is hanging on to them like an octopus just found his first piece of food in a week. So you're indoctrinated with it. It's not true, and it's been researched to be emotionally traumatic and damaging. Okay, so you were set up to fail.
With an octopus outfit, Aly? That's how I'm going to explain.
Seriously. You were set up to fail. You are not failing. There is a difference. And I want you to hear that. So your teen's brain is going from approximately 16 emotions to 88. Awesome. But unlike your cell phone that you plug in and it just gets like a software update, like overnight, spit spot, we're good. No, actually, we tell our kids what's going on in their bodies through puberty from the neck down, but nobody tells them that their entire identity is going to be destroyed. I don't know if you've watched Disney or Pixar's Inside Out. I strongly recommend watch 1 and then now watch number 2. Their identity, which is very simplistic, but they loved, and the only one they knew, is actually being destroyed, no biggie, to be replaced with a far more complex version that is required for self-reflection, which is the marker of a mature brain. Their self-esteem drops 30%. If your self-esteem dropped 30%, do you think you might look a little bit dark, lazy, unmotivated, and unengaged with things that you once loved? Yes, I do, in fact, think that would be true. That means in that stage of brain development, which, by the way, starts at different times for kids, but our recent research shows that it doesn't end until 28. But that doesn't mean they're going to be this way until they're 28. Okay, it's gradual. The thing is, a lot more of this is on you as a mentor that you were never told. So your teenager is naturally very negative. They're highly negatively wired. They are almost always in a mild state of fight or flight. Super. We used to call that the eyebrow. It was like a grumpy, like Muppet full, unibrow, because they're just grumpy about everything.
Right.
Their brain is so hypersensitive and highly reactive. They are living life through their amygdala, which is their emotion center, because their prefrontal cortex and the teeny tiny little emotional, intellectual, executive function at the front of the brain isn't yet developed. So they are all gas pedal, no brakes. All gas pedal, no brakes. So, maybe you coached a child when they were like 10 or 12, and now you're a parent coach who's coaching your teen or child as they're going up through the years, and you can't figure out why. That's also shameful and embarrassing, God forbid, that your child isn't the top performer when you're the coach. And now they're like sloughing off. You have not failed, and they are not failing. They're going through the second and final massive brain renovation in their lifetime that no one told them was going to happen either. So this self-esteem drop, the highly emotional reactivity, super negative, really low self-esteem. So they internalize all their mistakes. They don't just Taylor Swift shake it off. No, they sit and they go like full inside out sad, and they sit in the corner because all they want to do is be sad. They identify with their feelings. They don't understand that feelings are something they have, but they are bigger than their feelings. Why? Because we don't talk about feelings, because we weren't raised to deal with feelings. We're still exiling them. So these are all the things as a coach and as a parent, you need to understand when you're coaching teens and young adults, even collegiate, like early 20s. And also that's going to be impacted by their personality style. Extroverts, for instance, they do all their feeling outside of their bodies. That would be me. I looked more of a hot mess than an introvert, perhaps, who was having the same life experience. That doesn't mean the introvert has, quote unquote, got it all together. It also doesn't mean because I was the leader and the mouth of the team that I was a better leader, because I was an extrovert. There's all these judgments that we place on things that are, number one, part of normal brain development. And then this differentiator of environment and personality styles. It is not better or worse, right or wrong. As you've said, it's a mosaic. And if you're going to be the coach, then you better know how to get the right piece of stained glass in the right place to make the most beautiful picture. That's your job, not to create a black and white X's and O's graph that has exiled everyone and is purely rated on performance.
Calling all coaches, teachers, and parents. Are you ready to help your student athletes level up their game in the classroom and athletically? On my podcast, we're always breaking down mindset training the right way. No fluff, just real tools that you can use to boost confidence, handle stress, and show up like a champion. I created something for you. It's actually 19 things. stress busters for students. They're super quick and easy to learn. And don't worry, you don't need to do all 19. I just wanted you to have some options to see what you like best. Whether you're a teacher, coach, or a busy parent, maybe you hold a few of those titles. These will change the game for you and your students. Let's train smarter. After the episode, go grab it by tapping on the link in the show notes, and I'll send it right to your email. When you are working with parents and they are putting all of that expectation based on performance, and they're saying things like, you need to do this, you need to get the scholarship, you need to do this, you need to make that elite team, or else,
Yes.
or else if you don't do this. And honestly, the chatter in the bleachers from parent to parent.
Oh, yes.
Doing this, that, and the other thing. And you mentioned the people who coach their own children. That is intense in many ways. When you hear someone saying something like that, what would you recommend that the parent who wants to pour back into their child's brain and say, listen, I know that you're hearing a lot of this chatter, because when you're on that team as the middle schooler, as the high schooler, of course you're going to hear it.
Yes.
There was random people that would come up to my children as athletes and say, oh, well, I think you're really good, but you should be doing this. I'm like, who is this random person coming up to my son and saying these things? I would have to say, okay, we're going to the snack bar now.
Yeah, step back, sister.
Right. And is there maybe something that you would suggest a parent could say or not say to their student, their athlete, when they're in that situation where maybe they are hearing all the chatter from the other parents? Because I know parents say a lot of that, I think my kid feels pressure, but I want them to get this, that, and the other thing. And it's their wants and desires, I think.
I agree.
When they're expressing it. But is there something that you suggest or a tip that you give? I think I saw something about some things that you suggest that they could say or how they approach the conversation.
Yes, I talk to parents about this often. So I'm going to give you a little analogy. When your child is born, it's like, along with this creature you have no idea what to do with, you're handed a snow globe. And as your child is growing and maturing, from the day they were born, learning, etc., you're putting new, really unique little things in your snow globe, which is your version of who they need to be in their greatest self, or what's possible. I'm gonna say that because nobody loves their child more than a parent, and no one sees their potential more than a parent. Absolutely not arguable. Okay. If they just did all these things, well, that's you shaking up the snow globe because you're trying to constantly shake it to get it to be so that the picture inside that you have created all comes into the right spot. And I deal with this often. Whose story is that? Whose goal is this? Whose dream is this? And whose fear are we trying to abate?
Yeah,
it is your snow globe. I'm going to ask you to go back and smash that thing, because it will be the greatest disconnector over time till the date. There's no amount of not putting in the snow globe. You'll do it your whole life, whether how they date, who they date, the kind of parent they are, the kind of career they get. Stop it. Go smash the snow globe. Okay, just
so much.
Get rid of it.
Simple.
And it's natural and normal. Okay, it's natural and normal to project.
We love them and we want to protect them. We want what's best for them, but it is not our story. It is their story. Take that snow globe and throw it into the road, smash it, run it over if you need to. I love that. And, I was having a flashback when you were saying that. It was during crazy COVID time. And my oldest, who is now a freshman in college, he was an 8th grader when COVID hit and started 9th grade in that crazy pandemic learning.
Yes.
He was a 3-season athlete, was a lacrosse player in the spring of 8th grade, wanted to switch and learn some defense. So I said, okay, fine, we'll get the defensive lacrosse stick. He ended up having maybe a week of lacrosse. March happens, we're home. He's playing lacrosse in the yard, as everybody was just hanging out, doing who knows what as that happened. We go into freshman year. He plays in the fall, he plays basketball. In the winter, they had to wear masks. And he loved basketball, but it was kind of crazy, the whole journey.
Yes,
So
it was.
we as parents now, as freshmen or freshman parents, are thrown into this high school world, and it's also in pandemic. So we have no idea what we're doing, and we're in the pandemic. So we are told, okay, if you have an 8th grade son and he wanted to play lacrosse, jump on this Zoom meeting and we're going to sell all these cakes and do fundraisers. So here I am. Okay, I'm selling cakes now. So I'm selling these cakes and basketball season ends. And I vividly remember my son sitting on the top of our basement steps and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to go drop off these cakes. I have to pick them up. He started crying and saying, I don't want to play lacrosse. And I said, I don't want to disappoint you and Dad. And I said, I don't care if you play lacrosse. And I started laughing. I said, I just wish you would have told me before I have to deliver all these cakes. And he was like, oh, and he just was like, you don't care? He's like, but I played for all these years. I said, I don't care if you don't play lacrosse. I said, how long have you been worried about this? He's like, I've been thinking about it. And I said, I just went on those meetings because you had signed up for 8th grade lacrosse. And I guess his email and our emails were all on this. I said, my goodness, I should have said, are you playing lacrosse? I just assumed you were playing lacrosse. And honestly, I owned that mistake. And I said to him, I should have said, are you playing? I just assumed he was playing lacrosse. And it was town in the COVID era. And we laugh still about it. We call it like the COVID cakes, like if this is a cake situation, please tell us, like to all of our kids.
Right.
We don't want to do any of the fundraising, but
okay. I want to tell you a quick story about this because I love your heart in this. And I think this happens often. And I am that parent too.
Okay.
If my child chooses to do something, you want to bet your booty I'm 100% behind them. And I will do what is part of whatever that is doing to support what they are currently doing.
Right.
Your child perceives that as you love it more than they do. And that's the kicker. That's the backhanded thing. And so they feel guilty for quitting when all you're doing is like, dude, if you didn't want to do it, I won't do it. But if you pick basket weaving tomorrow, we'll go get all the bamboo. But this is what you need to communicate to your child, because they're not an adult. They do not have an adult brain, is saying, look, if you pick basketball, I'll be the driver. I'll be the team mom. I'll do all the things. It doesn't mean I love it more than you, but I'm going to love it as much as you do until you don't. And then we'll move on. So that they don't perceive that as their playing makes you happy.
He must have been thinking that, obviously, because he was so upset. And, fast forward to senior year last year, I will just own it. When they do get involved in things, I say, okay, I will help with things because I was a teacher and I've done a lot of these different things. I will help organize. You get put into roles sometimes when you're a parent who does other things. So they have a prom committee, and they fundraise for that. So they say, oh, you did all this when they were in elementary school and for the sports. Can you help out with the prom? So I went directly to him and I said, are you even going to the prom? Do you want to go to the prom? Because he doesn't like the dances and things like that. And he said, I don't want to go to the prom. He's like, I might go to this post-prom thing. And I said, I'm not helping with this then. I'm not putting time in. And honestly, I did feel a little guilty because everyone's like, you're not helping. You always help. All the moms and the shoulds and the supposed.
That's right.
And then when I finally just let go of that, it was a relief. I didn't have to do that. And you know what happened? He did not go to the prom, but he ended up going to that after prom. They have like a big party.
Yeah.
He had a great time. And it didn't matter that I was involved or not. And
I want to venture that you not helping with the prom was not just a relief for you. It was a relief for him. Because if you had said, I'm going to do it because it's your school and it's your friends, and he would have felt guilty.
That he didn't.
Because you see, where you put your energy and your passion, they believe that is where they need to put theirs. And that is why, if you're going to fully get behind whatever they're in the sport, you tell them, I will love this as much as you love it until you don't. And then we will go in a different direction. But I will not love this more than you love this, because that's not my job. Because your performance in this, whatever you're doing, does not make me a better person. or a
Aly,
better
I need
parent.
every young mother to hear this because I am assuming, making an assumption here, I could be wrong, but where I live, there is a lot of pressure for us to get involved in the school events, in the sporting events. And I
Mhm.
think that's pretty common in most places because I go and work with a lot of different schools
Sure.
and teams. And
Yes.
I mean, I even remember as when I was still in the classroom before working within my business, I was a full-time teacher with 3 children, and someone asked if I could run the Santa secret shop during this school day. I said, I'm a teacher in a different school district.
Yes.
How could I
Yes.
possibly come over? And,
Yes.
and I actually felt guilty because
Mhm.
why couldn't you do this? And it's so I hope every mother and father, anyone who feels guilt or shoulds and supposed to's related to that listens to you because I love that you just said, I am not going to love this more than you love this because
Nope.
you think we should do all these things and, be the volunteer. And it isn't our story, it is theirs. So thank you for that, Aly. I wish I had you a long time ago whispering that in my ear. It would have saved me some.
Well, I think, and I do want to say this because I did a lot of volunteering. I know schools and parent organizations and sports could not happen,
Yeah,
especially for you coaches who are listening, who
yeah.
are willing to give up your
Yeah,
family
don't
time in
quit on us.
cases,
Don't
your
quit.
evenings. It is all volunteer based and it's critical. I'm saying this relative to parent, child, athlete, and the perception that this is not only their worth and value to you,
Hmm.
but it is your worth and value because we don't do martyr mom anymore. We've tossed that out, right? We don't do martyr mom, so let's let that go. May I tell a story about quitting when your child wants to quit?
Sure.
Because we kind of went there when your son was quitting lacrosse.
Hmm.
Okay, so my son had been in Taekwondo for 6 years by this. He started when he was 5 or 6. He was 11 or 12. He was already heading for junior black belt test. Okay. And he hadn't loved it for a while. Now, if you're like me or his dad, it was, well, it's like getting 2 courses short of a degree. You don't stop. Like blah, 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 right?
Close.
Right? But he didn't want to go. And he was telling us he didn't want to go. Well, I am telling you, his dad and I had to have some serious discussions with ourselves
Mm.
because we were so stuck on, he's an Olympic athlete. We're both high performers. We're both stuck on this. Well, I'm sorry, you stopped 6 months short of a black. Who does that? That's so irresponsible. Blah, 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 blah. The kid was 12. Okay. He's 12. Okay. So once we got over ourselves, which took a few months of conversation amongst ourselves, we said to him, we love you. Whether you quit or whether you don't, we love you. We're so proud of what you achieved. He got golds in all of his competitions and he had loved it and met great friends. And we love you, whatever you decide. There was a timeline and a cutoff if you wanted to do the black belt test. That was the only thing. What we said to him is this: if you would like to finish your black belt test, it's a 6-month commitment, and we need to know by this time. And if you decide not to, that's fine. You can always go back. Oh, by the way, we also had to go talk to his master because we were so upset about this irresponsibility. He talked us off a ledge. And so we said, that's fine. And then if you decide to quit, we would like you to decide on another sport, because being at home with just more technology time is not kind of where we're aiming. We don't care how you do the sport, recreationally, through school, a club, whatever, but there needs to be some activity that you're doing. I believe he was actually 11. I think he was 11. This 11-year-old kid, my son, he thought about it for about 3 weeks. And I will never forget the day I was sitting on the couch and he came upstairs from the basement one day and he said, Mom, I've decided to finish. This makes me teary because I'm so proud. He said, Mom, I decided I need to see this through.
Oh.
Even though I don't want to look back and wonder if I could have done it. At 11.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was the most imperfect parent in that process and had a lot of learning to do about value and insecurity in my own identity. And he went through, he was also playing lacrosse at the same time because he'd already committed to that. I said, I will commit to get you to anything that you need to go to.
Right.
I had to get over myself because the kid was exhausted and had to skip at least one practice or something every couple weeks because he was so tired. Oh my gosh, I was in a fit. Who does that? That's so not perfect.
Perfect.
He finished his black belt test. He got his junior black belt. And we told him, if you do this, we will never, ever ask you to go again. Not one time, ever. And we never have. He is 21. He just finished and aged out of his last year of lacrosse, which he also loves. Also took up basketball and volleyball, plays college volleyball right now.
Okay.
He is still so proud that he made that choice. And he has that junior black belt. And that lesson, because we let him have it instead of our own insecurity forcing him to do it.
Right.
He knows now when it feels tough and hard, but he thinks there's benefit. It doesn't mean finishing everything, because let me tell you, there's power in quitting too.
Absolutely.
But when he feels there's value, he knows because of what he chose, not what we chose for him.
I love that. What an amazing lesson to give him, not just in that, but in life in general. And anyone can, as you were saying before, a substitute student, athlete, parenting, you can put that into anything. For people who are listening right now, let them choose. And to just go back for what works for you. What is best for you,
Yes.
And then to hear that your son made the decision that was best for him. And then now he can look back on that. And like you said, there is power in quitting. And if you wanted to do that, if they decide to do that, I think the key part there is let them. You need to let them and let go of that. This is about me. And, this and I can feel you, because my husband and I, not just the lacrosse situation wasn't that big of a deal to us, but there was some other things, basketball and different things where I played those sports. And when things changed, we had to have some conversations amongst ourselves. And even, with my dad, who was a coach and a basketball player, and I had to realize this isn't about me. And smash the snow globe, so to speak. So oh, Aly, I am just so obsessed with all of this information you have given me. I'm going to be probably stalking your Instagram. If Kate could stop liking everything, I'm going to be that weird person now. You're like, oh, I have 1 million likes. It's Kate again. And it's all Kate's show. So don't be surprised, woman. I am going to wrap it up so I don't keep you forever. I do have one question that I ask all of my guests. If you had the opportunity to swap lives just for 1 week, anyone you can choose, dead or alive. We don't want you to be there longer than 1 week because we think you're amazing. Who are you choosing and why?
This is going to sound cliche, but I would still say Oprah. The level to which she has promoted education, self-awareness, and empowerment. I had the pleasure of seeing her show in her last year in Chicago. And when security wasn't looking, I did run on stage and go sit in her chair. I got called out of the audience before because I had introduced myself for years as the next Oprah. And to have come from what she came from, overcome what she did to become a voice, I'm going to say mostly for good. We don't have to agree with everything she's done. That I would love to hear more of and to see that. I would use it in my own way. I am not her, but yes, that would be. Yes, it would be.
I could see you in that chair. I could see you. And I believe 100% that you snuck on that stage.
I sure did.
Yeah, I can see it. And that week would be really interesting to see, just thinking the interactions she has. That would be a cool week too. I love that answer.
Yeah. Brené Brown is a close second, by the way. Dr. Brené Brown would be a hot close second, or both together. But anyway.
Yeah. Top lives, half a week, Oprah, half a week, Brown.
Yes.
I mean, maybe you could have lunch, one of them. I don't know.
I know, right?
You have a lot of possibilities there. So
it sure could. It sure could.
Oh. Well, Aly, thank you so much again for all of your wisdom today. I know I'm going to be getting a ton of messages about you changed people's perspectives and what they do now. I am so grateful for you, and honestly, selfishly for myself. And I'm just really thankful for being able to chat with you, and I'm rooting for you always. Thank you again for coming on the Champion.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Before we do leave, I want to make sure I say, where can people follow you? Do you have the best places that they should be following you?
Yeah, best place, easiest place to find me is on Instagram and TikTok at Aly Pain. It's ALYPAIN. and or my website, alypain.com. There's tons of free resources and downloads, so you can get started on a lot of things we've talked about today. You don't need to wait for a course. There's no just it's your time, because if you think things are going to change without your time, we have a whole other issue.
Absolutely. Make sure, my listeners, you go look at the show notes. I will put all of the links there so you can just tap them, go directly there, hit that follow button, and keep taking all of this in and learn from Aly, because she has so much more. We could spend numerous episodes learning from her. Thank you again, Aly, and everyone who listened today. Go crush your week. Thank you for tuning in to The Champion Within.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. Whether you are going to coach, teach, cheer from the stands, or hit the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show, because we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and some sanity in our busy lives. Go unleash that champion within you, one step at a time. I'm rooting for you always.